Hi and welcome to Driver Training Limited. In today's video, we're going to show you a quick guide of how to reverse into a parking bay. Now you can use this for your driving lessons or if you're getting private practice. So the first thing you need to do is identify the bay as you come into the car park. So in this instance here, these two empty bays are designated as electric vehicle charging points. So unless we've got an electric vehicle and we need to charge it, we don't want to pull up in that bay. Other supermarkets, they are more visible, but again, we can see they're designated electric vehicles only. As you come into a car park, there may not be a sign visible, but if you look at the bay itself, like here, the one on the right, is a parent bay, parents and toddlers. So we can see that and we know really we're not, unless we are a parent with our children, meant to park in that bay. Here's another example that on the left, the bay says secure parking, so that's obviously for where they collect the money. And on the right, you've got disabled markings. So again, only those with the disability and the blue badge can park there. So the first part of any bay park is just double checking that you can actually park in that specific bay. A lot of the supermarket car parks these days are monitored by cameras, so if you do end up parking in a bay that you shouldn't, there is a potential that you could end up with a fine, because although the blue badge scheme is mainly for on-road parking, Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Aldi's all have private car park firms that monitor the spaces, and they can, under contract law, issue a parking fine if you park where you shouldn't. So now we've found the bay that we want, what do? Well, we look at the bay, and what we do, both white lines of the bay that we want to ignore them and count 2 lines past. Okay, so we can see the first line past our bay and the second line. And what we want to do is pull up and find our reference or focal point. And if you're doing this in your own car, generally you start off about halfway on the door. If you're having driving lessons, your driving instructor should tell you when to stop on the first one and then say to you, where does that white line meet your door? Because everybody's reference point will be different. If you're 6'5", you're going to sit further back. If you're 4'11", you're going to be closer to the steering wheel. Everybody's reference point or focal point differs. So your instructor should tell you to stop at the correct point so you can find yours. If you find that you can never kind of do this, then that could be the reason why. Because sometimes driving instructors will just say to you, pull up so the white line is in the middle of the door. And that will work for some, but not for others. So each one is individual. If you're doing this in your own car for private practice and you find on the first attempt that the car is coming in too tight, so you're going to cross that first white line, the danger with that is if there's a vehicle there, you're going to catch it. So the way to rectify that is just pull back to the start position again and just let the car come a bit further back so that your focal point is slightly further up the door, as we've shown here. And that should mean that you come round into the bay rather than cut across into it. Likewise, if you start off in the middle of the door and you begin to go wide so that the danger is you're crossing the other white line, then the same rule applies. Just go back to the start position again, but this time let the car go further forward so that your focal point moves further back down the door in this direction. And then see how it goes on the next one. So that's a handy tip if it's not quite going in right each time. Just alter that focal point or reference point and then see how it goes. So at this point, we do a full 360-degree observation just to make sure no cars are coming past on either side, people with trolleys, pedestrians walking past, people on bikes and scooters. So we look all the way around. Then, once it's clear, as the car starts to move backwards, we do full left lock, which means we turn the wheel all the way to the left until it won't turn anymore. And then we wait for it to come round level with the white line. And the way we do that is to use our left mirror. Now, there's nothing wrong with using the passenger mirror as long as you're not glued to it. But what it does, it provides a great visual point of one, if the car is going into the bay without cutting across the white line. And two, you can see in both the normal mirror and the blind spot mirror that the front of the car is now level with the white line. So it would be at this point that we would just start to straighten the wheel and then move back. And that's how we do a reverse bay park. So let's have a look at this in real life. So as we said in the briefing, as we drive into the car park, we're looking at the bay that we want, making sure that it's fine. We want this bay here so we can see both white lines of our bay. So we ignore those and we count 2 lines past. And you can see we're up level with that second white line. So that's the point then that as we come down, we're coming into the middle of both sets of bays. And that way we're giving ourselves enough room to turn in, because the closer you are to the bay, the harder it is. And we're finding that second line. So that's line number 1 past our bay. This is the second line. And as we said, that's our focal point or our reference point. And then once we've got that reference point, it's going to be the same each time, but it's different for each individual and each car. So as I say, if you get private practice, just play about with it. See where your focal point is, and then you know it's always going to be that on that car. At this point, if you're quite nervous or not brilliant with coordination as the car starts to move, then it's better to sit there and just do the steering wheel first. Just do full left lock. Now, on your driving test, if you did this, you may get a driving fault, or what used to be called a minor. But it's better to get a driving fault than a serious fault, because by the time you've turned the wheel, you're actually crossing the line and swapping bays. So just take it one thing at a time, do full left lock, then check all the way around. Again, a full 360-degree observation, looking for other cars, people with trolleys, pedestrians, people on bikes or scooters. Because remember, most times these car parks, especially when you do it on driving test, you're going to be in the busy part of it. So you need to make sure before you start to move. So we're looking all the way around. We can see that it is clear. That's our target bay. So we just want to come back slowly. Now at this point, like we mentioned in the briefing, we can look in our mirror to make sure that we're not crossing the white line and that it is going in correctly. If not, we could either start to adjust the steering or just pull forward to the start position. As the car comes round level and we're looking in that left mirror to make sure that it is, by looking at the front of the car, looking at the white line, then we know we can just start to straighten the wheel, which if you've done full left lock is generally 1.5 turns back to the right, depending on your car. So just practice, get to know it. And then as the car comes back, if we've got a reversing camera, generally it's the red line that you want. That's your stop sign on the curb, and that leaves you enough gap. If you don't have one, you can use your mirror. Just pull back, see where you are, and if you need to reverse a little more, then make a note of where the curb meets the car. You can even look over your right shoulder, and when you're in the correct position, see where the curb meets your back window. So here, for instance, it's halfway along the door, so that no matter where we pull up, that point halfway along the door will always be the same. So you know then you're in the correct position to stop, and you're not going to be too far over that curb or in danger of hitting it. And by doing it this way, that will give you the perfect reverse bay park every time. And it will help you avoid the common causes for failing on the reverse bay park, such as not being in the lines correctly or hitting the curb at the back. This avoids both of those. Now, as a quick hint for when you first pull out, on the driving test, they may ask you to do this at the beginning. If they do, or just when you begin to pull out anyway, make sure that the center pillar of your car is level with the white line when you first drive out. The reason for that is people often try and pull out just by turning in the bay. So they'll be sitting there, do full lock to the left and then start to move. The danger is if you've got a vehicle next to you that's quite big, such as a 4x4 or a van, you're just going to scrape down the side of your car on it. But also, if you're doing this for the driving test, it means you're going to start this at a very weird angle. So it's better to pull out halfway. That puts you into the middle of both bays pretty much every time. And then you're in the perfect position to start with. And then we know how to do it now. Those two lines past, full left lock. And then as it comes round, we straighten the wheel and just bring it back until the red line is on the curb. And that's your reverse bay park. So let's see that in action. So we hope this video has helped you understand reversing into a bay a bit more. Don't forget to leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel for more useful hints and tips. My name's Chris from Driver Training Limited. Remember, keep well, drive safely, and we'll see you all again in the next video.